Would you be mine? Would you be mine? Would you be my baby? Hello everyone, my name's Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Stonesy Reads. If you're curious of why there's no wacky intro like there normally is, if there's not, I don't know if there is or isn't, but if you're wondering why, it's because this is recorded yesterday. You might be confused, but yesterday was the 24th. Yep, this was recorded yesterday, right after our live stream. Ain't that a silly? So, yeah, sorry, schedule caught up on me. But yeah, we're only gonna read a few pages because it's the end of the book. We get to learn if he becomes a pirate. So, let's learn. Pete missed a step and fell, stumbling down the school's front steps. His knees and palms were scraped and his body felt bruised, but he pushed himself to his feet and kept running. If he raced across the school's lawn, he dug out his phone and clicked on Chuck's number. It went straight to voicemail because Chuck was still in class. Chuck! Pete heaved into the phone, shouldering breath. You were right. It's been Foxy all along. I have to go back and face him. Freaky stuff is still happening. But no way is Foxy going to win, Chuck. No freaking way. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, little bro. Meet me there as soon as you can. We can finish this together. In a blind panic, Pete rushed off to the sidewalk and into the street. He sensed something speeding toward him and he turned, and that's when a truck smashed into him with extreme force. His body went flying, his limbs twisting, and one moment felt like forever. Then he crashed, his body slamming hard on the hard ground. He felt a crack and shatter. The force scouted his skin across the road as he rolled and rolled, leaving a path of blood behind him. Pain was everywhere. Then everything went dark. Chuck, you were right. It's been Foxy all along. I don't know where to face him. Freaky stuff is still happening. But no way is Foxy going to win, Chuck. No freaking way. I'm sorry I didn't believe you, little bro. Meet me there as soon as you can. We can do this together. Chuck clicked off his phone, looked over his shoulder, and nimbly hopped his middle school fence. Then he ran. He had to get to FNAF Fazbear's pizza. He had to help Pete. He pumped his arms hard and fast as he got outside of the school. Then he felt safely out of view. He pulled out his inhaler, took 2 puffs, and walked till he caught his breath. He still had a few miles to go. He wished he had his bike, but he didn't, and he wouldn't let Pete down. He would let him face Foxy alone. He started to run again, but that didn't last long. He wasn't much of an athlete. Chuck would run, but wasn't usually short distances. He already did poorly in the timed mile in gym class. He glanced around and stiffened up when he saw a police car. Oh no! He ducked into a donut shop and waited for the cursor to drive by. He wasn't used to breaking the rules and ditching school. This was the first time he'd done something like this. What would happen if Mom found out? Would she ground him? Pete would probably laugh at him or be so scared, but that was okay. Pete would laugh at him all he wanted when this is over. He was out of breath when he got to FNAF Fazbear's pizza, and his shirt was stuck to his back with sweat. He pushed through the front doors and felt relief when the cool air-conditioned air hit his face. Little kids were running around, and he made way to the corridor that led to the maintenance rooms. There was some sort of manager standing in the walkway. Dang it! Chuck bounced on his feet, waiting for the guy to walk away. He pretended to play an arcade game until the guy finally moved along. Chuck walked slowly to the doorway, slipped through, and raced through the corridor until he got down to the door. He swung open and revealed absolute darkness. Chuck swallowed hard and stepped inside, and the door slammed behind him. Fear nearly swallowed him whole, but he grabbed his phone in his pocket and turned on the light. He smacked a hand to his mouth to try and stop the dumb hiccups. He flashed the phone light to the left and to the right. No freaky ghosts, no robots. He took out his inhaler and took a quick puff, and he continued to look around. Same dusty tables, old supply boxes, and broken chairs, like the first time they'd visited. For some reason, that felt like weeks ago. Pete, he whispered, you here? Then there was no answer. He wondered if Pete was trying to scare him again. Then he pushed that thought away. Pete had sounded really upset in the voicemail. He'd been physically hurt, and he really finally wanted to believe Chuck's theory. That began with Foxy. They were finally agreeing on something. Now Pete was treating him like a real brother instead of a problem he had to deal with every day. Pete, are you there? When he was answered with silence, Chuck dialed his brother's number. It rang and rang, finally going to voicemail. Pete, where are you? I'm here with Foxy, waiting for you. Call me, or just hurry up and get here. You know this place gives me the creeps. Chuck entered the call and stepped forward, aiming the phone line at a small stage. Chill ran down through him as he shivered. Instinct told him to move far, far away from the stage. To get out, he couldn't, though. This wasn't about his fears, it was about his brother. Swallowing hard, he walked over to the control box. He would find out that happened to Pete that day. He really needed to know if Foxy was somehow haunting his brother. Hand was hovering over the start button when the phone rang and it jumped in the air. Pete quickly answered. Pete? No, son, it's Dad. Where are you? I went to school to get you, but you weren't there. Chuck was suddenly scared he would get in trouble for ditching. His throat tightened. I'm sorry, Dad. Pete needed me. I had to leave. But it won't ever happen again, I promise. Pete? What do you mean? Did you talk to him? No, not exactly. He left me a message to meet him, but he's not here yet. I don't know where he is, but he won't answer the phone. Oh, son. His voice broke. What is it, Dad? A wave of dread washed over him. Why were you picking me up at school? Chuck, there's been an accident. Dad picked up Chuck at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and drove faster than normal to Pete's high school. He didn't ask any questions about why Chuck was supposed to meet Pete there. He said his mom was gone straight to school when he got the call that Pete had been hit by a truck. Let's keep the ditching school from your mom for the moment, Dad said. She doesn't need any more on her plate right now. Chuck felt guilt as a punch in the gut. Okay, Dad, you have to understand it was for Pete. I would never do it otherwise. I know, son. Don't worry about it too much. Brothers look out for each other. Chuck nodded. As they grew closer to the high school, Chuck spotted flashing lights. Police cars were blocking the streets, and barricades were holding kids far away from the sidewalk. Chuck swallowed hard. Pete's going to be okay, right, Dad? Dad pulled to the side of the road, a block away from the emergency vehicles, shut off the engine. He's going to be fine. But his voice sounded funny, like his throat was tight. His eyes looked scared and uncertain, as if he didn't believe his own words. Chuck rushed out of the car with his dad. They headed toward the flashing lights. A police officer held up his arm. Sorry, I can't let you through. That's my son. I need to see him. My wife is here. Name, Dinglewood. My son's name is Pete Dinglewood. He's the one who was hit. Policeman nodded and let him in. They passed more emergency workers than Chuck could count, and a truck was pulled to the side, with a huge dent in the front of the bumper. Chuck gasped and hoped that dent didn't come from hitting Pete. There was a man sitting in the curb talking to a police officer. He had his hat in his hands and he was crying. Chuck glanced toward the middle of the street and froze when he saw Pete's shoe lying there. It was a plain white sneaker, making the blood spattered on it horribly noticeable. All he could think about was that Pete needed his shoe. Little black numbers and plastic fold cards were scattered around the road, like for an investigation. Chuck swallowed hard and followed his dad until they finally spotted his mom standing by a gurney. Her back was to them and their shoulders were shaking. There's Mom, Chuck said, even though she was pretty sure Dad had already seen her. Dad rushed to the other side and put his arm around her. Chuck held back, afraid to see Pete in a gurney. He pulled out his inhaler and took a puff before he got any closer. Behind the barricades, there were some other high school students. Some faces were in shock, some faces were crying, and some kids were in pirate costumes. Pete probably loved that, he thought, making Chuck's lips twitch, but he couldn't bring himself to smile. Chuck, Dad said, reaching ahead. Come here, son. He was crying. He'd never seen his dad cry before. Chuck didn't want to move. He didn't want to walk to the gurney, but he could have. But he would have gone in the opposite direction. He forced a step forward and then another. He felt dazed in slow motion, as if he was really walking through heavy syrup. Then he finally reached his dad and Mom. He moved between them in support. Pete was laying in a gurney. His eyes were closed, and he looked incredibly pale. The scratches in the fishing accident stood out like an angry lead lines on his face, and his red scrapes etched into his forehead. Chuck waited for his eyes to open, waited for him to move, blink, anything. He's gone, Chuck, Dad said through ears. His words made him cry even harder. A man in a white uniform walked over to them. I'm sorry for your loss. We can meet you at the hospital when you are ready. Dad said, yes, thank you. The man was wearing blue gloves. He grabbed a large zipper in Pete's chest and pulled it up, sealing Pete into the large canvas bag. Just like that, Pete was gone. Pete felt frozen, like he couldn't move any part of his body. Strangely, he couldn't feel cold or hot or any pain. He was surrounded by darkness. There was distant voices, sounds of movement. Hello? Where am I? He wondered. Weirdly, he moved his lips. What the heck? It seemed like a long time passed. Finally, he heard something like a zipping sound. Bright light appeared around him. There was a man above him wearing clear goggles, a blue cloth cap, and a face mask over his nose and mouth. Was he a doctor? Hey, dude, you gotta help me. I feel weird. Pete figured he must be at the hospital. He had been hurt by a truck, and he remembered. He was trying to get to the pizza place, but he'd forgotten the rule his mom had raised him since he was little, to look both ways before crossing the freaking street. Well, now he'd been fixed for some surgery. Relief flooded over him. He'd get fixed up, and then he and Chuck would fix Foxy together, and then it all be over, finally. The other man appeared above Pete, looking down with his sad eyes. Poor kid, so young, he said. Yeah, I hate it when they're young like this. Really a shame. Gives me chills sometimes. Because of your own kids, right? Yeah, I'll sure to give them extra hug when I see them. Me too. Two men lifted up Pete's body and set him on a hard table. Hey guys, for some reason I can't move. What's the matter with me? Did you give me something to numb me? This is kind of freaking me out. And I've already been a bad week, you know, so please tell me everything is okay. Terrible thought dawned on Pete. Oh no, did the truck hurt my legs? Will I be able to walk again? Is that why I can't feel them? Why won't you talk to me, guys? I need answers. I need help. One man put his gloved fingers above Pete's eyes. Weird. What?
I can't close his eyelids, like they're frozen open. It's happened before. Yeah, but I don't like it. I want them closed. The man laughed. Suck it up, Buttercup. We have work to do. He picked up a handheld screen. One good thing. Says there's a kid, an organ donor. Wait, what? Yeah, parts of him are going to some lucky recipients. He's young. His organs are healthy. We gotta work fast, though.
No, there's a mistake. I'm okay. I'm not ready to give up my organs. Mom, Dad, where are you? Don't let them do this to me. The man grabbed large scissors and started to cut his clothes away. A few minutes later, music filled the room. Wait a minute. Is this another nightmare? Am I dreaming? Please let this be a bad dream. Please, this not be real. Wake up now, Pete. Wake the hell up. You got plans tonight? Yeah, taking the kids to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. They love that place. My kids love that place too. So those animatronics things kind of freak me out, but the kids love them. Whatever that makes them happy. Stop, I'm alive. Please don't take my organs before I'm dead. Someone help me, please. The first man grabbed the scalpel and placed it into the point of Pete's chest. Oh, hold up a minute, the other man said, reading again on the screen. What's up? Oh, thank goodness. Tell him it's a mistake. Tell him I'm still alive. Tell him to cut me open. You have an urgent case in need of the eyes in one hand. It says the kid is an exact match. The hand doesn't have much damage. It'll work, but we put everything in the ice quickly. The transporter will be here before we know it. Let's do it that first. No! The man with the scalpel took down at Pete. Good job, kid. You're going to help a lot of people. He retrieved the small sword with the other hand. The second man turned a small buzzsaw. The blades put in a circular blur. Let's get to work. Pete began to hear Foxy's music playing in his head. You could be a pirate, you have to lose an eye in an arm yard. Pete watched the helpless horror. The first man leaned down to take his eyes. 4 weeks later. Chuck rode his bike to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The clouds were heavy and dark. There were cloud by in the air. When he come home from school, no one was there. Even though Chuck knew his house was empty, he called out, "Hello, Pete?" Refrigerator answered back in a low hum. The house wasn't very big, but it seemed huge and empty to Chuck. He doesn't used to want to be old enough to stay home by himself. Now that he's gotten his wish, he wished for company. Mom had finally been able to go back to work after weeks of crying. Dad was also at work. Somehow the grief of losing Pete had reunited his parents, and Dad had moved back home after the funeral. One day, Chuck watched them both clean up Pete's room. They picked up the dirty clothes, threw away some garbage, made his bed, and closed the door. It hadn't been opened since. Chuck hadn't been met up with his friends in a while. He was supposed to go home and do his homework, but something had been driving him to go back. Back to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, back to see Foxy. He never told anyone what he and Pete really thought of Pete's freak accident, and how they believed the trouble had started, and why he had planned to meet Freddy Fazbear's Pizza to face Foxy once and for all. For weeks, Chuck had felt a heaviness in his chest. Once he opened, supposed to do something he never got to do. Like he had a puzzle that was incomplete. He replayed Pete's last message over and over since funeral. Pete's death nagged at Chuck's day and night. Sometimes he'd been sitting in class, the bell would ring. He would realize the period was over when he noticed it was starting. When he was falling behind in every subject, teachers stared at him, but no one said much. All they all knew he lost his brother, all knew he'd changed. Chuck sat alone at lunch, writing in his notebook, filling it with notes, ideas, and scenarios of what could have happened to Pete, and how they could have stopped it all before Pete had gone. Well, no more of what-ifs. Chuck had done wondering what he looked at his bike and bike rack in front of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. When he stepped through the doors, his familiar scent of pepperoni wafted over him. The pings and musical game sounds vibrated around him. He walked through the arcade and saw a group of kids huddled around the game. That used to be him. He always loved his place, until that fateful day, when Pete dragged him down to the corridor and maintenance room and everything had changed. He walked through the play area over the birthday tables and watched a couple of families sitting right in front of the stage. Everyone looked so happy. The little kids were eating pizza and enthralled by a show of animatronics. Some were singing with their mouths full. The kids clapped and cheered after the song finished. Chuck walked toward the corridor that led to the main maintenance room. He looked over his shoulder to see if anyone was watching. Then he slept through. He walked closely down the darkened hallway, past the old posters, until he reached the door. He reached out a handle and his hand shook. Then he took a breath and pulled the heavy door open, stepping into darkness. The door slammed at his back, the sound echoing in his ears. He pulled out his inhaler, and his breath thinned, and took a puff. Then he shoved his inhaler into his pocket and pulled out his phone light. Then he went straight into the small stage and straight to open the door box. No more wasting time. A shiver crawled down his back, and he ignored it. If he hesitated, he knew he wouldn't do it, and he'd been replaying his moment over and over in his head. He had to do it. He had to find out what happened to Pete. "This is for you, Pete," he said in the dark room. "I would face the villain and beat the game." He raised himself, slammed on the start button. He waited for the curtain to pull back, for Foxy to begin to sing, but nothing happened. All Chuck heard was complete silence. Oh my goodness. Wow. That's scary. Huh. Well, I don't really have a lesson for today, sorry. Well, I mean, look both ways before you cross the road. Like, that's it. That is seriously it. Because I have nothing else. It's sad what happened to Pete. But, you know. Yeah. Sorry, I really don't have a lesson today. It's just kind of sad. A good ending, though, for the book. It's, like, sad. Also, I like how at the start of the book it kind of made you think, oh, frick, he's gonna get attacked by him. But nope, it was a dream. So that was really cool. Anyways, what I'm noticing about these books is people are scared of the animatronics, but it's like the animatronics never really attack them. It's them being, like, scared for their own, like, life. Like, for example, the one at 1:35 a.m., the girl is kind of just scared of the baby doll. Baby doll never really attacks or messes with her. Or the other two that I 100% remember, like the one with Stanley. Actually, the one with Stanley, the animatronics did attack, but that was because he was in the location. So that was actual proof. Then the other one, oh, what was the other one? Forget. That one's that one was like, eh. Let's see, there was the baby one, there was one of the marionettes, and there was, I think the reason why I don't remember is because I literally read it in 2 days. Anyways, hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. Be polite, be efficient, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I hope you like the readings, because I'm going to continue doing them even if you don't. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!